Hi everyone, welcome back to Math with Mrs. Wallstrand. Today we're going to be talking about number 3. Last week we practiced 1 and 2. Today we're going to be doing number 3. So I have a couple materials with me. I have my number 3 workbook page that connects with Anno's counting book. I also have my crayons and my pencil here. And I'm going to start with Anno's counting book. And those of us that have been in school have been talking about this book. And it's a counting book that shows scenes of a number. And I'll explain a little more as we open. For some of you, this might be review. For those distance learners at home, this is going to be new. So Anno's counting book starts on number 0, and it will always have the number written numerically on one side, and then on the other side there is 10 squares stacked up together, and on this page the number is 0, so there's nothing colored in over here. And then we see a snowy landscape, but there's really nothing there, and that is to show the number 0. Last week we talked about number 1, and in this picture on Anno's counting book, we see our numerical number 1 over here, which we talked about last week. And then on this side we see our 1 counting block colored in at the bottom. In the scene we see groups of 1. We see 1 building or house. We see 1 pine tree. We see 1 snowman, 1 skier, 1 sun, etc. There's lots of different groups of 1. And then as we turn the page to number 2, which we also talked about last week, we see now groups of 2 in our scene. We see our number 2 over here. We see 1, 2 blocks on this side. Now I see 2 trucks, 2 grown-ups, and over here we see 1, 2 kids. There's also 1, 2 bunny rabbits. We see 1, 2 trees, and there are lots of other groups of 2 that you can find on the 2 page. But today, as I told you earlier, we're going to be talking about number 3. So let's open up to number 3. And in our number 3 page, you might notice that our season changed. It's no longer winter, and the season has changed to spring. So on this side, let's count our number 3 cubes. Start at the bottom and we'll go up. 1, 2, 3. Great job if you counted with me. I'm going to notice a couple groups of 3, and then I'll slowly show the video and see if you can find some on your own. The first thing I noticed was the 3 butterflies, so I would count them with my finger and make sure my mouth, when I'm saying the words, matches where my finger is at. 1, 2, 3. I see 3 flowers. 1, 2, 3. Down here, I see 3 boats on the river. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to hold my book up a little closer to you. And I'm wondering if you could see any more groups of 3. Feel free to pause the video and go back if you wanted to continue to look for groups of 3. So now after we're done with Anno's counting book, now we are going to practice our own number writing. So the next tool I need to get out is going to be my pencil. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is to hold our pencil right. It makes such a big difference, and the kindergarten teachers all feel it's really important. So remember, we're going to put our 2 fingers up and our thumb. For our pinchers, we're going to pinch right next to the wood, and then we're going to flip it in its nice little bed. And now, if you can see closely, I have my thumb and my pointer finger grasping it, and then on my middle man right here, the pencil is resting. And parents at home, we want to make sure that our kindergartners aren't writing like this with their arms and shoulders. We want them really building their fine motor skills and making sure that our writing is with our fingers in this fashion. So if they're struggling with that, you can get them down on their bellies, and that will kind of lock their shoulders out and force them to use their fine motor skills in their hands. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be talking about how to make the number 3. So before I use my pencil, I'm actually going to show you in marker so you can see it better. You will find 2 lines, a top line and a bottom line, just like we write our letters. And then at the top, you're going to see a dot, okay? And everywhere you see a dot is where you're going to make a number 3. So you're going to get your pinchers in a nice tight pencil grip. Make sure you're grabbing towards the bottom of the pencil and not way at the top or in the middle. And then you're going to start at that dot and you're going to do a little curve, and you're going to go to the right and stop at the middle line. And then you're going to follow that line until you get to another little curve that touches the bottom line. So this number 3 is little curve, little curve. And again, right here, we would start at the dot and little curve, little curve. Trying to make sure that we touch the top line and the bottom line when we're making our number 3s. We don't want to do tiny little 3s. We want to make sure that they touch top and bottom line. So your job on our worksheet, I'm going to move this over a little bit, is every time you see a dot, you are going to do a number 3. So there's a lot of them. This is going to be a little bit difficult. We're going to practice a lot because the only way we get better at 3s is if we practice. So I'm going to start at the dot. I'm going to do little curve, and I'm going to keep going. I don't want to go too fast. I discourage kids at school to go too fast, but I don't want to go slow as a snail either. So you want to make sure you're making a good pace and staying focused on what you're doing. At school, we have the kids stop before they do the last one and raise their hand. And the teachers will come over and we watch them actually form the number. We want to make sure kids aren't starting from the bottom. We want to see them start at the dot and form it correctly. So for you parents at home, make sure you're monitoring that. It really it's a big deal to form them correctly. So start at the top, little curve, little curve. Now that I've done all those 3s, and that was hard work, I can put my pencil down. And now I'm going to get my crayons out because at the bottom of this page, I am going to draw 3 of something. I'm not going to draw a scene like Anno's counting book, but I'm just going to choose 3 of one thing to draw a group of 3. So my example today is going to be 3 suns. And I'm going to choose this orangish color to draw my sun. So I'm going to use this space down here to draw 3 suns. 1, 2, and 3. Now when you're drawing, you could choose to draw 3 of anything. It could be 3 flowers or 3 hearts or 3 stars or 3 people or 3 dinosaurs or 3 shoes or whatever you decide that you want to draw. As long as it's 3 of the same thing to show a group of 3. Now at school, as soon as our friends are done drawing their 3 of a group or whatever number we're working on, I always like to have them raise their hand and I come and check it. And I'm not looking for their drawing really. I'm looking to see if they can count 1 to 1. So they will count for me and they will count 1, 2, 3. And what I'm double checking is to make sure that the numbers that they're saying and they're pointing matches up. For example, this would be incorrect. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you want to make sure they're counting and saying at the same time, 1, 2, 3. And that's it. That's number 3. All right, everybody. See you tomorrow for number 4.